and not everyone in the audience. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Michaela.
Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, or I should say good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your interest in the Georgia College Advising Corps. I hope you get a lot of helpful information about the program. And please feel free to let me know whenever you have questions throughout, and I'll be sure to answer them. All right, so if we could go to the next slide. All right, so first I'll just go over what we plan to discuss during the webinar. So first, who we are, how we got started, where we are now, what we do, how we do it, most importantly, why we do it, and then you'll see our impact throughout Georgia. All right, so the Georgia College Advising Corps, our mission is to increase opportunity for Georgia students. So our mission is to increase the number of high school students who are first generation, low income, or underrepresented to apply, enter, and complete college. So we're not just looking for students to apply or get into college, but also to matriculate. So our leadership team, Dr. Libby Morris is the Executive Director of the Institute of Higher Education at the University of Georgia. Dr. Yarborough Peoples is our Program Director. Kind of think of her as the head of the organization, your boss. Tiffany Spencer is our Graduate Assistant, and she's responsible for all of the training and workshops and logistics that we have. Maria Townkanassis is our program coordinator. Shayla McLaughlin is our training coordinator, as well as Austin Like. Both of our training coordinators are also former advisors, so you will be trained with advisors who have been through the process for the last 2 years and can give insights as well as your training. So how we got started, first off, this is just a picture of our last summit in our nation's capital in DC. We have a national summit every single year where all 600 of the advisors across the country gather around and learn from each other. So a little bit about how we got started. So the College Advising Corps is a national program. So it's a grant-funded, near-peer college access program. We're actually the largest college access program in the country, and so the University of Georgia is one out of 24 universities, and we serve in 15 states. So if you'll go to the next slide, you'll see a list of all of the national programs. So everything from Boston to the University of Southern California is represented, and University of Georgia, you see in red, is just one of those 24 institutions, as well as an e-corps that assists students through online learning. So our history, so the College Advising Corps partnered with the Watson Brown Foundation in 2008, and with that funding we were able to create the Georgia College Advising Corps in the Institute of Higher Education at UGA. And so in 2008 we started with 4 advisors in 4 schools, and so those were in Thompson, Augusta, and also I believe Rockdale, and also in APS, which is Atlanta Public Schools. So that was in 2009 to 2010. This year, we have grown quite a bit since then. We have 17 advisors in 14 schools. And just a little bit of information about the number. So there are some advisors who serve in the same school. So we may have 2 advisors in one school, and that could be for various different reasons to help support our students. And so there you see us as 2016, 2017. So where are we located? So we serve at all of these institutions. So Atlanta Public Schools is our largest school district. So we have Best Academy, Coretta Scott, D.M. Farrell High School, Drew Charter Senior Academy, Grays High School, Maynard Jackson, Mays, and North Atlanta, which is the school I serve. And then note the asterisk with 2 advisors. You can see these schools that have 2 advisors with the asterisks. We also have 2 schools in Clark County school districts. That's actually in Athens, Georgia. So Cedar Shoals and Clark Central, as well as Richmond County, which is West Side, Rockdale County High Schools, which are Rockdale County and Salem, and then we have Gwinnett County, which is Meadow Creek High School. All right, so what we do and how we do it. So what we do is place recent college graduates and place them in underserved high schools. So recent graduates mean that you are no more than 6 years removed from high school yourself. And the reason behind this is because a lot of times counselors are not as well versed in the college access process because it has changed so much since the time that they were actually in college themselves. They may be 10 or 20 years removed from their college experience, whereas a recent graduate has been through the same thing that our students will soon go through, and some in just less than a year. So the recent college graduate and near peer mentorship that is incorporated into this program is really beneficial because students trust your information more because you are so young and you know a little bit more about what is actually going on college campuses today. And advisors will collaborate with their school's college and career readiness teams to increase the college culture throughout the school and then help students throughout the application process. So in your schools, more than likely you will be incorporated as part of the counseling team. And anybody who needs a question about college access or the process is probably going to come to you, and you will become the expert on college access and the most knowledgeable person in your high school about the college access process. So our innovation model, what makes us different? So I already touched on the near peer advisors that serve full-time in high schools. The full-time aspect is also another one that's pretty remarkable because many college access programs are either after school or doing a certain block schedule in a student's day. The fact that we are full-time means that we completely serve any time that is necessary, and as many advisors can attest, even after school and after hours. We are a research-based college match and fit strategy. So the wonderful thing about having the University of Georgia as a system in our program is that the research that goes on in the Institute of Higher Education is then used to supplement all of the resources that we can provide our students. So we operate on a college match and fit strategy. So that means that you are suggesting schools to students based on not just, do they want to stay in the state of Georgia, or do they want a big or small school, or private versus public, but also what is going to match their academic profile and give them the most potential to succeed. We have an open door whole school approach. So we are a non-cohort, so that means that we don't serve a group of 30 plus students at one particular time throughout the day. We are in service to every single student who is in our building and every single student that walks through our office. And we're one of the only college access programs in the country that does have a non-cohort approach. We also provide our services to no cost to students and families. So there are many college access programs where you pay a fee either through the school or individually in order to access the resources. GCAC advisors are coming to the students at no cost, so they don't have to pay anything in order to come and see us or take advantage of the resources in our office. We serve students through a partnership, so there are partnerships all throughout this program. We've already touched on the partnership with the National College Advising Corps and also the University of Georgia, but we do have partnerships with each of the high schools that we serve in order to allow us to be full-time advisors in our schools. And then certain counties will also have partnerships with some organizations. So for example, Atlanta Public Schools has a partnership with Achieve Atlanta, which provides resources to our students as well. So those partnerships just provide a lot more resources to our students than they would otherwise. And then anchored and co-invested by post-secondary institutions. So as I mentioned, we do have the University of Georgia resources at our disposal, which just further assist our students. And then now I'm just going to open the floor. If anybody has any questions about anything that I talked about so far, you can enter those in the chat box. As long as you have them go to the organizers, then we can view those and I'll answer those at this time.
Thank you, Michaela. Jane has a question. What do advisors tend to do post advising core?
Okay, so advisors have a multitude of backgrounds, so it's not even that there's one particular major that is required for the Georgia College Advising course. So, in turn, there's not one specific thing that advisors end up doing. So, a lot of advisors use the opportunity that they have in the 2 years to develop their professional skills or develop their career path and then go into graduate school programs. We have many advisors that have gone back to grad school, gotten their MBA. We have one advisor that actually just this past year was accepted into medical school and chose that. So there are many things that they can do, professionally, going to professional or graduate school. Also, a lot of advisors use this time to develop their professional skills and then enter into the workforce. So we have an advisor who has started his own nonprofit. We have other advisors that have gone to work in the school system. And then even so, we have advisors who choose not to do anything related to education. So we have, as I mentioned, a med school student currently, and we also have students who have gone on to major in history in their graduate studies, major in physical therapy, anything like that. So there is no one particular thing that you are required or are usually expected to do once you get out of Georgia College Advising Corps. But the resources are there for you to figure out what you want to do. So second year advisors in particular, we have many personal and professional development workshops that we go through to ensure that once you leave GCAC that you have a foundation, that you know what you want to do and how you want to proceed. So our program director, Dr. Peoples, is very willing to work with you on that. And then we incorporate professional development as far as, how to write a personal statement or resumes or anything like that throughout the year in our training and even during our national summit. So I don't think that you'll ever have to worry about what you're going to do after GCAC. We pretty much have your back on that. And then if you aren't going to grad school, then we'll kind of figure out based on, what you've done in GCAC for the past 2 years, what kind of career path you may want to try out.
Thank you. We have one more question before we continue to move on. Stephanie wanted to know more about the non-cohort approach.
Okay, sure. Stephanie, to answer your question, so non-cohort approach means that a student can come into our office and they are not selected by our organization or our program by any set of criteria. So, for example, there are many college access programs in the country that have a group of students that are pre-selected either by the school or either by their own program to assist students with the college access or college application process. So I may say that if I'm just giving an example of a cohort model, I may say that an organization only wants to work with Hispanic students who are first generation. So I will either ask the school or myself, with the resources that the school gives me, select a certain number of students to go through the program with. So that may be 15, 30, 45, whatever number that they come up with, to go through and have this journey with only those particular students. So what makes GCAC so awesome is that we are able to serve the entire school, so we don't have a cohort model. So all of the advisors, you are responsible and able to work with every single student that is in your senior class and then in your high school. So, for example, I have 410 seniors right now, and I am responsible for having information on every single one of them. Each and every one of them can come into my office and ask me any questions that they need, and I'm not restricted to only working with a certain type of student. Also, it's important to also point out that we do specialize our training and our resources for low-income, first-generation, and underrepresented students, but we work with every single student who comes through our office, even if they don't fit into those three categories that I just described. So even if a student is first generation, maybe their family, um, didn't go to college, until very late in their adult professional career, so they weren't familiar with the undergraduate process as much as a student who's coming in straight as a freshman. Or it could just be a situation where that student has a parent who went to school back in 1985, and a lot has changed in college access since then. So they may need just as much help as the student who is first generation. The same goes for underrepresented students. So any race, religion, anything like that, we are serving every single student in our school, no matter their background, and no matter what type of help that they may need.
Thank you, Michaela.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with the presentation. So the next thing we need to talk about is what we do and how do we do it. So advisors meet with students on one-on-one basis or in groups and assist them with the various things below. So SAT and ACT fee waivers and registration. So if a student is qualified for free and reduced lunch, they actually receive a waiver from the SAT or the College Board that allows them to take the test without paying. And also the registration process is all online for both of these exams. So students will need help to register with those, and we assist them with that. We also plan college rep visits, fairs, and tours. So a college rep visit is when a counselor or an admissions counselor from a particular institution will come to your school and give a presentation to your students. College fairs, if you've ever been to a college fair, it's just a huge gathering where a number of colleges are set up and students can come up to tables and have discussions with those admission counselors at will. And then campus tours, so we provide students with the opportunity to not only learn about the colleges that we're speaking about, but also to view them as well. Selecting best fit and match colleges, so what I mentioned with our research-based match and fit model, we pair students with options for applying to schools that match their academic profile and also match the fit. So if they want to stay in state or out of state, if they want to stay close to home, if they need a religious affiliation with their university when they go off to college, anything like that. Completing college applications, which can be very, very stressful for students, and even for us sometimes we look at questions and we're like, why did they ask us that? So students need help with actually applying to colleges. We also edit college essays, so any essays that they bring us, as long as they have the prompt or the essay question with them, we will review those. Completing the FAFSA, so FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and every student needs to file out that application in order to let a school know how much money that they can contribute themselves and then how much money they need. And then also applying for scholarships. So as we all know, the cost of a college tuition is steadily increasing, and so students will need help finding those resources in order to fund their education. All right, so in addition to those advisor responsibilities, there are also other advisor activities that we participate in. So we will have presentations either for an entire class of students, an entire cohort, so maybe the entire senior or junior class will be in the auditorium or the gym, and you'll give a presentation for them related to college. And then also event planning, so there are many events that we do for families, and you'll see family engagement is the next bullet point on the slide. So anybody who needs to know how to complete the FAFSA, we may have an event or workshop that's geared to any student and their family members to come and learn exactly how to navigate that process. We also are invested highly in activities after school, so even after we shut our office doors, we're constantly staying involved with our school. So for example, I am a mentor in a student organization called Students of Excellence, and so I mentor students after school from 4 to 6 every Wednesday, and we have advisors who are mentors, coaches, anything of the sort. And then we also have the opportunity to be test proctors, so you can proctor the SAT or the ACT on a Saturday morning, which is pretty cool because you are working with your students to get them to the point where they're registering for the SAT or the ACT, and on Saturday morning they may be actually in your classroom standing in front of you taking the test, so you can walk through that process and see them going through the process with your students. And you also may get paid for that as well, depending on your school district. So that's an extra bonus as well. I see, let's see, do we have a question?
Yes, the next question is for a first year, and we also have a first year on the line. Delisha, if you don't mind answering, um, what's the most challenging part as a first year on the job?
Hi, this is Delisha. I think one of the most challenging parts would be just adjusting to the environment, whether it's adjusting to the school environment and who you'll be working with, or just adjusting to being a college advisor and trying to apply everything that you've learned in training to actual putting it into action. So that can be really frightening at first, but I feel like once you get the hang of it and you really start working with the students and you become comfortable around your school environment and the people that you work with, then you can really succeed.
Thank you, Delisha. At this moment, do you see any more questions, Michaela and Delisha?
I see
Yes.
one more question. Delisha, do you want to take care of that?
Okay. We have a question from Marie. Are the presentations done by a single advisor or a group?
Okay, so it will depend on whether you are at a two advisor school. So the presentations that we're speaking of are in service to our students. So most of these presentations will occur actually in your high school, either during or after school. So if you're a single advisor school, then you will be the person who will be facilitating all of these presentations. Now, you may have outside resources that come in and help give information to your students. So, for example, if you are giving a presentation on um, the ABCs of a college application, then you may want to bring out a representative from the College Board or something like that, or Georgia Student Finance Commission to talk about the Hope Scholarship if it's a financial aid workshop, to give your students more resources. So you may not be the only person who will be presenting in the presentations, but you will be the main person speaking probably. And then also, the facilitator, so the one who's actually organizing these events. So if you're at a two-person school, then you probably will just be bouncing back and forth between the two advisors. So it really will just depend on if you're at a single or two advisor school, and then also what other resources that you would want to bring in.
Thank you, Michaela and Delisha.
Okay, so now we'll get into why we do what we do. So in Georgia, the student to council ratio is 450 to 1, if you can believe that, and that leaves students with only about 20 minutes a year with their college counselor. So if any of you on the call can recall what your interaction with your counselor was, if you were talking to them about college, or was it just your academics and what classes that you were taking each year? A lot of times we see that students have limited interaction with their counselors, not to any fault of their own, but just because counselors wear so many different hats in the school that by the time they're getting to talking to a student about the college process, they don't necessarily have the time or resources. Um, and also, counselors, like I said, have been very far removed from their college experience themselves. So you would be the most knowledgeable person about college access in your school. So it does really benefit high schools to have a college advisor present. And then there's also a very big need to apply Best Fit Schools financial aid, and have students not only attend a university but actually enroll and persist. So a student could apply, to 10 schools, and that's great. But if it's not something that's actually going to be a good match and fit for them, then when they get there, they won't feel comfortable, they won't be succeeding academically, and then they may not actually graduate and matriculate. So it is definitely important to have an advisor there for that purpose. And then also, just economically, 90% of the fastest growing jobs in the United States right now do require some sort of post-secondary education. So the United States lags behind other nations that have young adults enrolled into college, and that could be, for a variety of reasons, whether financially or, public education being free in that regard. And then within Georgia, there's a goal of increasing higher education completion rates by 60% by 2020, and so that requires an additional 250,000 graduates to grow at a rate of about 5% each year. So just think of your position as an advisor, just increasing the economic and educational wealth of the state as well as the nation by getting more of our young people actually into post-secondary options and then graduating and being able to enter the workforce with the requirements or the degree requirements that are necessary. All right, so our impact. So this is just a data snapshot of some of the things that we've been able to do last year. So last year, over 71% of students applied to at least one college. 55% of seniors were accepted into at least one college, and 84% of seniors had a one-on-one meeting or a group meeting with our advisors. So that means that you are touching the majority of students in your high school. And we also had over 3,000 graduates. So students who either maybe they have a lower GPA or they didn't think that college was an option for them. Many times when they have conversations with their advisor, they are more inclined to, take school more seriously because they know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a goal after they've graduated high school to go to college. So that's something that we're definitely proud of. Last year also our students received over $42 million in institutional scholarships. So that's money that the school directly is giving them. So it just shows how beneficial it is to have an advisor in these high schools. Okay, so the fun part. So applications are now live. They are due by March 7th at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. So you can find a link to the job application on UGA's HR website. It's called iPause. And then just click on the search postings and you'll find us linked under that. Or if you want, you can enter in our posting number, which is 20170-208, and then click search at the bottom of the page. So you will be asked to upload a resume and a cover letter that addresses these two questions. So first, why are you interested in being an advisor? And then how will this experience benefit you both personally and professionally? And then you'll be asked to upload a page with at least 3 references and then include their name, title, position, and then their relationship to you, as well as their phone or email. And then we will start interviews in March, so probably late March and early April. And then at this time, are there any other questions?
We have a question. How are you chosen for your school? How is each advisor chosen for that particular school that they're serving at?
Okay, so that's a great question. So in the process, after you complete an application, you will have an interview if you're called back with both the program director and also the graduate assistant. And they will assess, kind of your experience with the college process yourself, how you personally were able to get to the institution that you just graduated from or are about to graduate from in May. And then after that, you will meet with advisors for a second round interview if you're called back. And so we will kind of ask you a series of questions just to get an understanding of how you fit with the school culture of each of the schools. So each school is very different. So some are located in rural or suburban areas, and then some are located smack dab in the middle of downtown Atlanta. So with those different geographic regions, there also comes a different school culture that's associated with each one of them. And I think that Dr. Peoples does a great job of allowing your personal experience with the college application process to guide you on what type of school that you may end up serving. So, for example, I currently serve at North Atlanta High School, and so we are surrounded by about five um, private high schools. And myself, personally, I attended a private school up until the ninth grade, and I only went to public school ninth through 12th. And I find that a lot of students who come to North Atlanta are actually former students of the various private schools that are in the neighboring community, and now they're at public school and being able to be assisted that way. So I think that there's a parallel between the personal experiences that you had with the college application process and then how your students are going to be able to relate to you. And then other than that, it really just depends on your preference. So in your application, you are asked, would you prefer something that's in a rural area? Would you prefer to be in Atlanta? Would you prefer to be in Augusta? And so we try to take those preferences in consideration when we are placing you.
Thank you, Michaela. It looks like we've covered all of the questions. Delisha, is there anything you would want to add before we wrap up?
Um, Not really. I just want to say, be yourself and really say what's on your mind as far as if you have a passion for this. You don't necessarily have to want to go into higher education, but as long as you have a passion to serve students and to help a community of people, then I feel like you'll be a great person for the job.
Thank you, Delisha. Turning it back over to you, Michaela.
Okay. So if you have any questions that weren't answered this evening, you have a couple of people that you can reach out to get your questions answered. So you can email our program coordinator, Maria. Her email address is maria.uga.edu. So that's MARIEA at uga.edu. You can also call the office, which is in the Institute of Higher Education in Meeks Hall on UGA's campus, and that phone number is 706-542-0579. If you want to ask a little bit more personal questions about your specific process applying to GCAC, you can email our program director, Dr. Yarba Peoples. Her email address is ypeoples@uga.edu, so that's YPEEPLES@uga.edu. And then you can also email our graduate assistant, Tiffany Spencer, and her email address is tcs@uga.edu. And I want to thank you guys so much for coming and learning about GCAC and what we can offer, and I definitely look forward to your applications.
Thank you, Michaela. Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being on the webinar call or website. With that being, I have a few announcements. Application deadline is going to be March 7th, as Michaela stated earlier, at 11:59 p.m. Please leave your email in the chat location for the presenter only to receive an application link via email, and we'll also send the directions on how to find the posting. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Bye.